Are you ready? They think you can tell us what to do. Bow to the masters. Break it down.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Muddy River Breakdown with Shuck Daddy and D.O.B. I'm Muddy River Sports Editor Matt Shuckman, hanging out with I've called you Dandy, I've called you Dangerous. I gotta come
Dapper.
up with Dapper. Dapper Don O'Brien this week.
Why not?
You always look good.
Well, I have a problem keeping my shirt tucked in today. Got to lose a few pounds.
Don't we all?
Yes.
Working on it, though. Working on it. That's the key. Got to keep working at it.
Yeah, I'm not working on anything right now.
Well, we're working on fall sports.
Yeah?
There's a lot of fun things going on. I know you got to spend Friday night at Flynn Memorial Stadium hanging out with the Blue Devils,
Yes.
as did I.
Yeah,
It was
you
fun.
did. Yeah, that was, the Alton wasn't.
Oh, no, the game was terrible because Alton was terrible.
Yes.
And
But it was a beautiful night for football, for the millions.
I
and
thought
millions
the
who showed
crowd
up.
was great.
Crowd was good.
Crowd was great. And I had a ball sitting in the end zone talking to the coaches, just hearing what's going on within the Quincy High School football program. And
You're still trying to work on that Jim Osman.
I'm going to get him.
truck.
I'm going to get him on Shuck on a Truck. It's going to happen.
The public demands it.
Well, that's what I think. We need our listeners to chime in and make sure that he knows he belongs on Shuck on a Truck.
Yeah, so if you see Coach Osman around, say, hey, you need to get to Shuck Daddy and do that truck thing.
I'm going to break him down. I'm going to literally break him down I'm going to wear him down until he gets on Shuck on a Truck. It's funny. I think he'll eventually will. I really do.
Oh, yeah, he'll do it for eventually.
But he's so funny. He's such a great dude. That's why I want to do it. I think it would be a ball. I think a lot of people would love the stories he could tell. But I have thoroughly for the last 35 years or however long it's been, have always enjoyed hanging out with Coach Wassman.
He doesn't say much.
Says more than you realize. So, but you're a hot
I
dog.
know him. I'm hot dog from Galesburg.
You're a hot dog from Galesburg. So.
I'm an intruder.
So did you enjoy? Obviously the game wasn't great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Did you enjoy the? Because I thought the atmosphere was pretty good for the home opener.
The age-old question when it comes to Quincy High football games:
Yes.
7:00 start. We didn't start till 7:45. Part of that was a late arriving bus for Alton.
Correct. There were some bus issues for Alton, with the JV game
But-
didn't start as quickly as expected.
Will they ever start a game on time, a varsity game?
No, and I think it's one of those things that I know I've heard over the years, and you and I have seen it on social media, where some newspaper journalists complain about it because of deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
That's never bothered me. Like, deadline's deadline.
Well, we always had a very already had a very friendly Friday night deadline.
Yes, we
back in the
did. So that was always very nice.
1 a.m. by the way, for those of you wanted to know, we got to have everything.
And now here at Muddy River, we don't have a deadline.
What deadline?
Exactly.
I was able. Okay, so Friday night,
Yeah.
talking about deadline. Stacy, my wife, was out.
Uh-huh.
She comes home. She goes, "Why aren't you writing?" I said, "Got no deadline."
Right.
I was watching the Illinois game.
And that's the great thing about it. You can go home and you can relax. You could go have a drink with your wife. You could go have dinner.
I went to one of the local fast food taco places, and they were out of nacho sauce.
Crazy.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
But anyway, so the days of deadline are over for me, thankfully, and over for you.
Yep.
But again, it's a great. The band, the Quincy High band, is really good.
But I think
I'm not killing them at all.
No. The atmosphere is wonderful. But I think as far as a starting time goes,
Yes.
for a variety of reasons, I think you got to try to stick to that. And my point has always been, you've got broadcasters, you've got advertisers who pay for those broadcasts, you've got people at home who are tuning in to listen to those broadcasts or a live stream if it, because obviously the football game was on NFHS network. And I know, I've had people ask me about that, where they tune in at 7:30 or whatever start time is, whether it's tip for basketball or kickoff for football, whatever start time is listed on the schedule, they'll tune in at that time and say it's WGM's broadcast and look at ESPN program or WTAD's broadcast and it's something else going on. Or
I wonder if they've even missed a game or if it's even going on.
Exactly. So I think that, to me, there's a protocol that kind of needs followed for a variety of reasons, that you should try to start on time. And if you pick your 7 o'clock as your start time or 7:30 or whichever it is, you work your way back. How long do you need to warm up? How long do you need for band? How long do you need for national anthem? And you work your way back, and then that's what time the pregame starts. And then you figure out from there, what do you do about the JV game?
Well, they play short. They were already playing 8-minute quarters on Friday night. And they played, I can remember going to a couple games last year, and they don't play full 12-minute quarters in the JV games.
No, but
I'm sure they would like to.
I've seen it where coaches have said, okay, JV game ends at this time.
No matter where we're at.
No matter where you're at in the fourth quarter of that game or circumstances or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair to the JV kids? I don't think so. So I think to make sure you give them.
But what have we always said about about JV players?
They're just there to get better to play varsity.
Thank you. Get better. Work
so,
harder.
but I think you got to figure out for your fans, for your fan. I mean, your listeners, your viewers, for your fans coming to the stadium and all that stuff, a way to get started as close to the prescribed kickoff time as possible.
Yes.
How do you do that? I don't know. There's a variety of ways. I think it's something they have to investigate. But I think when you start looking at 7:45, when you said 7 and now it's 7:45 and now you're getting a kickoff, you're going to lose a lot of people.
Our friend Brock Hamsmeyer tweeted on Friday, and he goes, game time going to kick off at 7. I immediately tweeted back at him, I'll take the over.
Yeah.
I took the over on you, too, and I won.
You did. So that's the way it is. But I think for the first 2 weeks of the high school football season, we've seen some good atmospheres.
Yeah, without a doubt. Week 1 was good. Week 2 was good. We have no Friday night football in Quincy this week.
It's crazy, isn't it? We don't have very much Friday night football in our area this week as far as teams in our area with home games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Hannibal's playing Saturday night at Troy.
I'll be there.
You'll be there. Quincy Notre Dame's playing Saturday afternoon against Chicago Hope.
You'll be there.
I'll be there. Quincy High School is on the road for the Western Big Six opener Friday night at Moline.
Maybe I'll be there.
Maybe. Are you playing co-pilot on that one? If it goes,
see, I don't know. See, so.
Okay, I know we've said this before, but your son's a senior at Quincy High School, plays on the basketball team.
He's got buddies. He's got a ton of friends that are on the football team.
Exactly. So he's thinking about going to the Moline game.
Yes. This is going to be their toughest. Okay, so this will be the true litmus test for Quincy High
Correct.
on Friday night.
We're going to find
out whether they're the real deal Holyfield or whether they're, what was the guy who, who was the guy that Tyson knocked out in like 10 seconds? Some tomato can. Yeah. We either they're either gonna be Glass Joe or they're gonna be the real deal Holyfield.
Right.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. This is gonna tell us. I think they're in a good position having had one week 1 and week 2 to get to the playoffs. I think they've put themselves in a good position to get to that 5 or 6 win mark by the end of the season. Now, can they get to a 7 win mark? Well. How deep in the playoffs can we expect them to go? Those sorts of things will start to get answered this week with how they perform against Moline.
Well, Moline is the team that was picked, all the prognosticators everywhere picking them to win the league. They had a senior on their team who's now playing as a true freshman for the Illini. And
Matthew Bailey.
Backfield. So they've taken a lot of graduation losses, although they've got a lot of guys that are also back.
And they've been very competitive the first 2 weeks against very good programs.
Yeah, they won week 1 and then lost week 2 against Lyle Benet Academy, which is not
Bennett.
Okay, so Benet. Jean Benet.
You're going French on us.
I'm going Benet. I'm going French. François. Let's say so. Bennett Academy.
Yes.
So they, there's a difference between Alton and them. To be quite honest.
Well, and Notre Dame's facing the same thing. They lose to Quincy High School week 1. Shut out Alleman week 2.
Of certainly a game that you figured that was going to go the way
kind of a no-brainer there. Mm-hmm. And now week 3 they bring in Chicago Hope Academy.
Are they good?
They're 2-0, and I believe they've scored over 50 points in their first 2 games. And they play a solid schedule. It's not like they're kicking the snot out of the Sisters of the Poor up there in Chicago.
So the Raiders, this is a huge. Are we going to the playoffs or not game?
Yeah, I think it is because the back end of their schedule is really tough. This week they've got Hope Academy. Next week at home they have Hayti out of Missouri, which is a Class 1 school, which played Monroe City in the state semifinals last year, but graduated a ton of kids. So I don't know if they're going to be as good. You have an Elmwood Brimfield team that they play week 5, And then their final 4 games are Breeze Mater Dei,
They just won the Milk Bowl.
Mahomet Seymour,
Very tough.
ranked number 3 in the state,
Knocked a tryout out of the playoffs last year.
Normal West,
Class 6?
Class
school?
6, Class 6A school. Not sure how good they are this year, but
way bigger. They
way
have a lot
bigger.
more kids
And
than
then
Notre Dame does.
and then they close on a Saturday at John Burroughs down in the St. Louis area. John Burroughs traditionally is very, very good. Now, I don't know how they'll be
alma
this
mater
year.
of Ezekiel Elliott, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So,
And
yeah.
alma mater of my good friend, up to the sky, Ken Heitholt.
Okay, Kent went there too. Okay.
Yeah, he did. So his dad coached there.
Huh. Did
So
not know that.
yes, so Bill Heitholt, who was a Quincy High School Hall of Famer,
Mm-hmm.
coached at John Burroughs, and Kent played.
Kent played there. Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, so nothing easy for the Raiders. But if you're looking, okay, so let's prognosticate Quincy High. I don't think Galesburg's very good.
No,
Obviously, Allman is one you think though that they can get. So they're
Yeah.
so they're at 4.
I think
Where's the 5th? UT is not.
UT
I don't think is very good this
No,
year.
UT is the 5th. I think right now Rock Island's beatable.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the 3 best teams in the Big Six as of right now. The way I would look at it going in: Moline, Sterling, and Quincy.
Wow.
Um,
So if you
I
shot
think
the world on Friday night, all of a sudden,
right,
because Sterling comes here,
Sterling does come
you
here.
don't have to take the 17-hour trip up north.
No, not at all.
Mike, how long is that? I mean, so I finally did it during basketball season.
Right.
And your body gets conditioned to the 2.5 hour or so drive
Yep.
up to the quads. You're like, okay, we're fine. And then you hit, and then you turn right, and you got to go 45 more miles.
The funny part about it is, over the years, the trip to the Quad Cities has changed because of better roads.
Thank you, Mr. Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Oakley. And that, so you conceivably are getting to Moline High School, Rock Island High School in 2.5 hours. It used to be 3.
You get to the Bergen about $1.45 now.
Yeah, and it used to be an easy 3 to the Quad Cities, depending on how fast you drove.
Yeah.
Now you're there in 2.5, and most nights you're home by midnight.
On a bad night.
On a bad
for basketball, you're home usually by 11:30 or 11.
And if you're a reporter and you're writing your story up there, you're still home by 12:30.
Yeah.
Typically. Where there were nights back in the day we weren't getting home till 2 or 2:30.
That crazy.
It's just crazy to think about that. But Sterling, you're not getting home.
It's the other end of the world.
It feels like it, and it's the same for them coming to Quincy.
Yes.
And, it's the same, vice versa. Luckily, Quincy and Sterling, they have to go each way only once per year, regardless, depending on sport.
Yeah.
Sterling comes here for football. Obviously, they go both. There's a home and home in basketball. I'm not sure, like with soccer and volleyball this year, who goes. Sterling comes here this week. They're coming here on a Tuesday night. It's Tuesday or Thursday.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they have to travel to Quincy for
Baseball
volleyball.
played up there on like a Friday afternoon, so they
Yeah.
didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn on a Saturday to play up there. So, so it's huge for the Devils on Friday night
Oh,
from
big
a
time.
Big Six standpoint.
Big time.
If they had Moline dead to rights at halftime here last
They
year.
led at halftime, and then Moline just controlled everything.
Moline, I have to go back and look at my notes because I covered that game. I think that Moline scored on every one of its second half possessions.
I know it scored on its first 3 because they just ran roughshod in the second half and just pounded the ball between tackles.
Yep.
And Quincy wasn't able to keep up in the second half. I believe it was a 45-31 final.
Something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that.
And it was Friday night was good for them. Not that they played poorly against Notre Dame. They did a lot of good things, but that was a stat patter game. That was one everybody can feel like they were pretty pumped up after that one. So I think they've got a lot of good feelings.
I think so
going
too.
into Friday night.
The attitude of the kids coming off the field afterward mirrored what it was before the game. They were very energized, very energetic, very excited to play, and coming off the field, you felt the same thing. Like they were ready to turn the page to next week to Moline, but energized because of it.
As I wrote on MuddyRiverSports.com, they just bullied Alton.
Oh, no
And
question.
It's not. I mean, I've been watching Quincy High football for a lot of years. It's rare when they get to be the bully. I've seen them get bullied a lot. Oh God, especially in the late '90s. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And the early aughts
I've
around
seen-
the turn of the century.
and I've seen more Quincy High football than
you
you.
were in the '80s. You saw it wasn't even worse.
So-
maybe not mid '80s because they actually had some players then. But Boy,
I've seen the gamut.
you'd have to go back and look at their record in the 90s.
It was not good.
In the 90s, did they win more than 15 games total in the entire decade? That'd be a great trivia question. But people are Googling it right now and looking up on IKSA.org. But, 0-9, 1-8,
Yeah,
0-9
there were some lean years in there.
So, so for Rick Little to do what he's done with this program and is just over this 15 years has been phenomenal.
And because now there's an expectation that that they could be a playoff team.
Without a doubt. And he's done a great thing of working it. Both sides.
Well,
now. They've got both, those youth programs kicking.
Yeah, both because you got the Junior Raider program and you got the QIFL. And the QIFL, you're really starting to see the benefits of that. I know it's taken time, but you're seeing the numbers at the junior high level. You're seeing the numbers at the freshman and sophomore classes have big numbers, and a lot of talented players. And think about it, this is still a really young team. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still another year away from what I think the people on the outside said. Well, they're going to be good by this time because all those kids will be juniors and seniors by then. Well, now they're sophomores and juniors. And they're playing really well.
We don't have to go back too far at Quincy High School to see a team that exceeded expectations well before anybody thought they were going to be good. And I don't think anybody saw the basketball team doing what it did last year.
Oh, no.
So the football team certainly could follow in those footsteps.
Yes.
And who knows, Friday night they shock a Moline and get a win. And all of a sudden, boy, they're feeling like they can beat anybody in the world.
Yeah.
So, it could be an interesting one Friday night for sure.
I think the other interesting thing about this coming weekend is the Hannibal football team coming off a victory at Jeff City. They go to Troy Buchanan on Saturday night. And obviously the buzz right now this week is about Aeneas Williams. And the buzz, you could say that every week. Mm-hmm. But he scored 8 touchdowns and all 53 points because he kicked the 5 extra points. So, 8 touchdowns, 5 extra points, 53 total points in one game.
He dropped 50 on him.
He dropped 50.
53. That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
And
when I first looked at it Friday night, I went, okay, so he broke the record with 8 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that record was held by 4 other people, including himself going in. The record was 6. Electric Wentrick did it against Mexico in 2000. Logan Hicks did it against Mexico in 2006. Shamar Griffith did it against Boonville in 2015. And Wentrick did it last year. And Aeneas did it last year. Excuse me. Aeneas did it last year. And now he broke the record with 8. This is the Hannibal single game record.
And he broke it against one of the traditionally tough teams. And I know they're down right now.
They're not as good as they have been in the past, but Jeff City.
You say Jeff City football in the state of Missouri.
There's a handful of programs that you could sit there and talk about being the best programs in Missouri history. Mm-hmm. And there's Jeff City, there's Blue Springs, there's Webb City. Those are probably the 3 best that most people talk about.
So he did this against a historically great program.
Pete Adkins has got to be just shaking his head in his grave.
Yes.
But
we saw video. I saw tweets of your boy Drink helicoptering in somewhere in St. Louis. I know they got an 11 o'clock game in Kansas State on Saturday.
Correct.
They should be back in time. Is he going to helicopter into Troy?
He needs to.
He's got to protect the borders.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Aeneas has not tipped his hand to anyone in anything I've heard. Mm-hmm.
So last week he went to. Yeah, he was with Ezekiel Elliott on the sidelines of their Ohio State game.
Right.
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
If you want to protect your border, you better start getting serious about it now.
Yeah, you didn't, and it wasn't Eli Drinkwitz when Ezekiel Elliott was playing in St. Louis, the son of 2 former Mizzou athletes, and he went to Ohio State.
That was on. Who was that on? That was on Odom, though, wasn't it? Or was that on Pinkel?
I don't know who that would have been the head coach at that.
It was on whoever it was. We got to protect our borders in Mizzou.
So. It'll be interesting to see how hard a push they make to protect those borders and try to keep him here. Obviously, they got Luther Burden. Obviously, he's East St. Louis.
Well, he's St. Louis, and he was actually lived in St. Louis and played over there.
Right.
Because it's East St. Louis, and everybody just kind of just their residency.
But they were able to keep the number 1 wide receiver in the nation close to home.
Yeah.
Can they do it with the number 1 all-purpose back? It'll be really interesting.
I'll be interested to see see if anybody is stalking the sidelines on Saturday night. because that works into, if you do have an early Saturday game, those coaches can get there.
So
Saban shows up.
Saban's not showing up. Now, that doesn't mean an Alabama assistant won't show up.
Ryan Day? Do I need to get Stevie Dirt with me if Ryan Day shows up?
And I've had those conversations with Hannibal Athletic Director Clint Graham on, okay, what do you guys do if somebody like that shows up?
Saban wants to park, flies copter into the Hannibal YMCA lot.
And I know there's been conversations among administrators and stuff of how do they handle that, depending on who shows up. Now, there's been no inclination or no word that any big-time coach like that is going to show up in Hannibal, but it could happen. It legitimately could happen.
It's crazy.
It is nuts.
And his 8 touchdowns weren't like 1-yard plunges. They
were
the picture you guys we had on our Mighty River Sports
Matthew
website
Kirby got a great shot going up between two defenders and that's 2 weeks in a row. He's gone up between 2 defenders and caught a touchdown pass. Because people are just blanketing him, and he's still making plays. Mm-hmm. Credit him.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about the weekend was, and it's showing up especially today, or like the last 24 hours. We taped this on Tuesday. So Monday was Labor Day. So probably the last 24 to 48 hours. The clip of Jyrell Brock's 23-yard run that set up his 1-yard touchdown plunge, that clip is everywhere.
Well, ESPN College Football tweeted it out today, and everybody's picking it up.
Yes.
So he had, of course, Jyrell retweeted himself, which I would have done that too.
Of course.
That's how I first saw it, because he retweeted it.
Okay.
And but everybody, Alan Lazard is he an Iowa State guy, or is he just somebody who
yeah, I think he's an Iowa State guy.
Okay, so that's why he knew about it. But just what a play, and thank goodness they gave him the ball at the 1 so he could finish it off.
No doubt.
Because there's many times you see guys make great plays like that, and some other schmoski gets to run it in for the score.
Okay, so I was watching the game.
I watched it early. But I watched the first half, and they were
he had
their
3
quarterback's
carries.
not bad.
No, Hunter Deckers is pretty good.
And that they got number 8, who he's throwing the ball to all day long.
Xavier Hutchinson.
Yes. Oh my goodness gracious.
So yes, so they're pretty legit offensively. But Jyrell had 3 carries for 5 yards in the first half. Mm-hmm. And the fact was nobody got the ball. So I didn't tune in when the game started. I got maybe mid-second quarter, and I'm looking at the live stats and going, he's gotten 3 touches. And my first thought was, what happened to him?
Yeah.
Did he get hurt? Did something? And then I saw him go in and go into the game. Okay, well, he's not hurt. And then all they did was use him as a blocking back. Yep. And I'm like, okay. Well, then the second half, they came out and ran the ball. And he got his touches. 17 carries, 104 yards. Pretty impressive start to the season for him. First collegiate 100-yard effort. Got a touchdown in his first regular season start.
And he made a highlight play that was all over.
Which is Jyrell style.
Still not as good as when he almost killed the Rocky Kid.
No, that I don't know if that highlight can be topped.
And then I was actually at the game when they played at Belleville East. I think it was a senior or junior year.
When on defense he just unloaded on the kid.
God. They almost had to scrape this guy off with a spatula from the turf field at East.
It's crazy.
Reed and I were like, yeah, that kid's good.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, because you were living down there at the time.
Down there at the time. Yep.
Yeah.
So what a great kid, and he deserves all the plaudits he gets. But
and he's going to be in the spotlight this week.
Yeah,
because it's the Iowa State game, and Iowa is horrible offensively. Their defense outscored their offense on Saturday. They won 7-3, and their defense outscored their offense.
That's terrible.
They had 3 points on offense. They had 2 safeties.
Just terrible.
Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. So. I guess you take the under in that game no matter what?
Yeah.
Because their defense is salty.
And that's where it's going to be interesting to see what kind of yardage Jyrell ends up with this week, because Iowa's defense is pretty salty. Mm-hmm. So, but in listening to the post-game comments and then, and checking in with him over the weekend, mm-hmm. It was interesting to hear the take on how the game went, and especially from Matt Campbell and what he, liked how Jyrell got comfortable and was able to put some things together, and
that'll
be it's pretty neat. Pretty neat. It was fun, and it wasn't. Of course, excuse me. Jyrell was kind of a star for Iowa State that day. And obviously we're paying attention to him because of the ties with him being a Quincy High graduate.
Yeah.
But there were other area kids who were playing at the collegiate level who did some nice things over the weekend.
Fill me in.
Weston King, Palmyra kid, who was an all-state defensive tackle, got a sack to start the year for Central Missouri. Obviously, they took it on the chin. I think
Mules got beat.
Yeah, the Mules got beat, but Weston King had a nice game. Jack Marth, Quincy Notre Dame product. I know Truman State lost to Davenport 20-19, but he had a tackle for a safety in that game.
He playing at Iowa.
Yeah, so you're seeing some of the area kids who have gone on to play at Jackson Connell playing at Quincy University had the most tackles on the defense.
Well, somebody needed to make a tackle.
Yeah, that was brutal.
I mean,
that was
okay. So
obviously you okay. So
I was there. I covered the game
last Thursday night. We had two big things going on. We had the Quincy High versus Notre Dame boys soccer game.
The Quincy Derby.
So that's where I was.
Yes.
And so you went out to the Rock Pile.
Yes.
And took in Quincy University football team's home opener on a Thursday night, first Thursday night game in school history against Glenville State.
Home game.
First home game. So I got to see a 4-3 game in which Tanner Anderson broke the career scoring record.
And the game-winning goal, the pass, the goal were two of the best you've seen at high school level.
And thank you, Frank Can, for your video work, because not only was your highlight video awesome, but you got a great shot of that entire play.
Frank is the GOAT, is he
Frank
not?
is the GOAT. There is no about a doubt it. He is awesome. But, so as great as that night was, and as entertaining as that was, it was equally disappointing and mind-numbing of what took place at QU Stadium.
I mean, it was okay. So I find I've got to admit, I'm telling this to my boss here at Muddy River Sports that I really didn't do a lot of pregame prep into that, other than reading your preview. And
right,
I knew that there were a lot of high hopes that the defense is going to be better this year. The first play of the game for Glenville State's a little bubble screen, and the guy takes it 59 yards to the house.
And I believe you texted me at that moment with what had happened.
Yes.
And I'm sitting at soccer game going, same old.
And they didn't. This quarterback transferred from Towson, hardly played there, but came here and just sliced and diced QU.
And I realize you don't always get the full scouting report going into a game one.
Yes.
You see what they did last year. They were Glenville State was 3-7. You kind of know who's coming back. You don't know who all's going to transfer in and all those things. Mm-hmm. I don't buy it. I don't buy we weren't prepared for that.
You should have.
Then you weren't prepared.
Yes.
It wasn't that you weren't prepared for that. That means you weren't prepared. You weren't worried about yourself and what you were doing. Because I'm sorry, you give up a 59-yard touchdown or 57 or whatever the number was on a bubble screen on the first play of the game. You did a really poor job of defensively, of tackling, and of getting to the ball.
The guy was touched.
And that's sad.
And then you go back, and this quarterback was throwing. I mean, he hit another guy on the right sideline for like a 65-yarder. He hit another guy 35 yards over the middle. Another, he had like 4 touchdowns in the first half. And it was just, so I haven't seen QU football lately, but I've seen a lot of QU football in my life. And
much like I've seen a lot of bad Quincy High football over the years.
I've seen a lot of bad QU football.
We both.
It was funny because my on Facebook, your memories always pop up.
Yes.
And one of them, I think this was when they played at Southeast Missouri State on a Thursday night.
Yep.
It was a Thursday night opener at SEMO, 72-3 loss. The only difference is they probably got $25 or $30 for that, $25,000 or $30,000 for that loss. Whereas I believe they paid this team to come in here.
My understanding is there was some financial incentive for Glenville State to make the trip from West Virginia.
Well, I'd have done that too if I were them. I'd take the money and run because it was so they've got another game Thursday night. They got to figure it out.
Yes.
But again. And I don't mean to belittle anyone associated with that program, but my last time I covered a QU football game was 2011. 2022 looked exactly like 2011.
And that's sad. because it shouldn't.
The only difference is back in 2011, QU was homeless.
True.
They were vagrants. They played out at Flynn.
Yep.
And the new to me anyway. This is the first time I've been on the baseball side 100 times, but I didn't go to the football. I hadn't been on the football side.
That's the first time you've seen since it's been redone
very
in 2015.
Nice. It was very nice to see that if you took your 4-year-old kid to the game, he or she wasn't going to fall through the rebar. In the holes in the crowd or the holes in the stands. So very good facility. Crowd could have been better, but again, there's so much other stuff going on.
Right.
Oh boy, that was just. It's like.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out this week. You know, as you said, the crowd was decent. There was a lot going on. Not as much going on locally on Thursday night this week when they play Trinity International. Will the crowd be any better?
No. Or
because of the result of last week, will people?
Maybe you've got the kids don't have to go home this weekend. Maybe that might help. Maybe more of a student thing. But I tell you what, they've got for making a first impression.
Not a good first impression.
Not at all.
This weekend,
yes,
NFL kicks off.
Yes.
Are you excited?
I'm excited now. Go Chargers.
Just because of your fantasy
Justin
team.
Heber and Keenan Allen. Let's go. So no, I guess I'm excited. I'm more excited about I think it's 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. We've got Tottenham against Man City, number 2 and 3 in the EPL table, facing off.
Okay.
I believe that the Spurs are on the road. So it's gonna be very tough. We got to somehow contain Erling Haaland.
It just cracks me up that you've become Mr. Soccer. It just makes me giggle.
I tweet about it now too.
I know.
I was so happy to see Arsenal lose the other day because Arsenal is fraudulent. If you're an Arsenal fan, and I don't know who you are out there, they had played no one, and they're on top of the table. I'm like, look, once you play a good team, you're going to get smoked. And, of course, they played at Man City, and they got smoked.
A year ago, you knew none of this.
A year? 8 weeks ago, I knew none of this. But I've decided, because it's a World Cup year, I'm immersing myself in football.
Okay.
And I know these guys now. It's gonna kill me when Harry Kane England's in the same pot as us at the World Cup, and I'm gonna have to root against Harry Kane because the U.S. We got a couple U.S. guys on Leeds United.
Okay.
Aronson is going to be the guy. Remember that. I don't know his first name is because I don't know enough about it yet. But they're going to get this Christian Pulisic. He finally got a start the other day for Chelsea.
He did.
But he's been in purgatory because I hate that Thomas Tuchel. I don't like the Chelsea coach. If he were to get sacked tomorrow, I'd be happy. But he's not going to get sacked. English term, by the way. But you're dying over there. Where's Jack McKenzie at when I need him?
No question about it.
Jack tried to get me on EPL back in 1997.
Yes, he did.
And I was a snob, and I said, I'm not going to watch your VHS tapes. And
25 years later,
if I could break it down with Jack right now about the EPL, I would love to because he was such.
Can you imagine him sitting here with us talking EPL on a podcast?
We would go for hours.
It would, no question about it.
I'm guessing he was a Man United guy, right? Because Sir Alex Ferguson.
I think that's
had
right.
To have been.
I think that's right.
If I see one of his kids around town, I'll have to ask.
Well, and I'm sure there's others.
But so
who would
yes,
know.
my weekend it's going to hinge on that 11:30 game on Saturday between Spurs and City.
Luckily, the Pirates don't play till 7:00.
I know. It's perfect.
So you got plenty of time to get to Troy.
And the thing about EPL is, even on Saturday, we played at like 9 a.m. The game was over before all the college football started.
Exactly.
It's perfect. I mean, they're those people over across the pond are geniuses with how they set up their schedule and stuff.
As much as I want to sit and watch college football on Saturdays.
Yes.
I do enjoy having some of the high school games on Saturdays. And I know the reason behind it is the official shortage. There are some circumstances. I think Notre Dame's the game this week with Chicago Hope was going to be a Saturday anyway because of the travel. Same with Hayti next week. But I like that fact. I like the fact that we're, again, Friday night is meant for high school football. But because of the official shortage and other circumstances, we're having some Saturday games. And I think that's great. I think it's a lot of fun.
And you get a Thursday night dabbled in everywhere.
True, every now and then. Yeah, we've had Thursday night games the first 2 weeks. I don't think we have one this week. We don't have a lot of teams at home this week again. This is 2 weeks in a row. Earlier. So we're going to have a lot of home games coming up.
Well, I'm ready to go wherever you send me, boss.
Well, I think it's going to be you've been a champ and a warrior so far, and we're going to keep throwing you out there.
Awesome.
My 7-day starter. Every 7th day, running you out there.
Dude, throw me out there every day, Coach.
Well, should we break it down again next week?
Love to.
Well, plenty to talk about next week. We can talk about the Iowa State game, see what Jirel does, and see if Aeneas. This is your first chance to see Aeneas. I know you've seen him.
I saw him last year during the playoffs,
right?
Where he touched the ball 5 times in the first half and scored 4 touchdowns.
So,
the only time he didn't score is because he slipped on an interception. So, or else I probably would have been 5 for 5.
But so you're going to see him again, and you're going to get a good take of how good he is. I know you have a good idea already, but so I'm anxious to hear your thoughts.
Baseball against him back in the day.
When Reed was with the Dirtbags?
Yes. Yeah, we played him a ton.
Yeah, he was great. He really good baseball player.
Baseball player, too. Of course, he'd steal, and whenever he got on base, it was an automatic triple because he's going to steal second, he's going to steal third.
It doesn't surprise
me. So you had to make sure 22. He even wore 22 back in the day.
Yeah.
For baseball, you got to keep 22 off the bases.
Did I ever tell you the story of when I coached Little League Baseball in Columbia? We had a kid named Charles Brown on our team.
Charlie Brown?
We called him Lucky Chucky.
Yes.
And Lucky Chucky had trouble hitting.
Okay.
But if you got him on base, no one could throw him out. He was the fastest kid in the league. So it was like,
why don't you just Herb Washington and just pinch run him all the time?
Well, no, because he was my starting center fielder too. He could run anything down. But Lucky Chucky, we get Lucky Chucky on first base, and boom, he's on third. And 2 pitches. No, it was like I gave one sign when he got on base. I gave one sign in the third base coach's dugout or coach's box. Yep. Steal, because nobody was going to throw him out.
You know what happened to Lucky Chucky?
I don't. I lost track of him.
You don't keep track of your former student athletes?
I got quite a few that I do know what they're doing.
Yes. You don't know what happened to Lucky Chucky.
Never knew what happened to Lucky Chucky.
He did not make the major leagues.
He did not.
Well,
poor Lucky Chucky couldn't hit. He could run, but he couldn't hit.
Hits like Hayes, runs like Mays. Is that what the line was back in Major League? That was Lucky Chucky.
Yeah. Well, his was hits like Mays, runs like Hayes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But he didn't really hit like Mays.
No.
So.
Crazy.
Anyway, we'll break it down again next week and talk more football and whatever else comes to mind.
Sounds good. Had a blast.
Always. Been a great time. For Don O'Brien, I'm Matt Shuckman. This has been another episode of the Muddy River Breakdown.
Down.